Welcome back to Growth Lab Sessions. I'm Joao, CEO of Stealth White Label Agency. Today, we're diving into one of the most misunderstood and most powerful growth channels, SEO. Our guest today is Matt Diamante, founder of Hey Tony, and someone who built his agency largely through organic search. If you want to understand how to turn Google into a consistent source of inbound leads, this session is for you. If you're an agency owner looking to scale, you definitely want to explore our solutions at Stealth White Label Agency. With 14 years of experience and over 120 niches, we've been helping agency owners not only fulfill for their clients, but also acquire new clients so you can only focus on scale for your agency. If you're interested, definitely DM me, Joao, on my Instagram, or comment below and somebody's gonna reach back to you. Back to the podcast. Getting now into class 3. So we were talking about this already, right? A lot of websites and content online are starting to feel like a regurgitation of other content. Now, and a lot of sites are also feeling like a digital brochure that looks the same, right, across the board. Do you have any thoughts into making websites and website experience feel more unique?
I think they should be unique to an extent. Like the content, the images, yes, that stuff should be unique. What shouldn't be unique is the menu should be at the top, right? When you scroll to the bottom, there should be a footer with like other links. Like if there's like an advertise with us link for some reason, that should be in the footer. Like put the content where people are expecting it to be. Don't try to be like too creative or too like out there and be like, this is the next thing. Now you're retraining people on how to use the internet. Not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. But that's also thinking about how a website can be generating more leads, right? Because that's kind of the goal of every business owner's website is to generate more qualified leads. So following that structure that already works is important.
Yeah.
Cool.
So sorry, I was just going to say, so another thing that a lot of business owners don't do, or people who have a website, is they make it tough to get in contact with you or to take an action. So the number one thing in your navigation menu, you should have a contact us or get a free quote or whatever action you want somebody to take. You should have a button that says that, get a free quote, whatever. And it should be a different color, like very obvious, click here and you're going to get this free quote or you're going to contact us or whatever it is. Whatever action you want them to take. The other thing is have a call to action above the fold. So are you familiar with what above the fold, like where that comes from?
I'm not familiar where that comes from, but above the fold just means like the fold is the first section that you see when you land on a website.
So yeah, without scrolling. So when you land on a website without scrolling, you should have a call to action there. So if you're a dentist, it's like book a teeth cleaning or teeth whitening or a whatever exam. So you should have that button there or get a free quote. Have a button there as well. And the term above the fold comes from back in the newspaper days where you would buy a newspaper and it's folded in half, right? So above the fold, that is the first content you see. And that's what sells the newspaper. And that's what sells your product or that's what sells your service. And a lot of people are just like, yeah, they bury a button halfway down the page and they're like, why isn't anybody contacting me? It's like, well, number one, people are lazy. They don't want, if you have a leak in your roof, they want to go to a site on that page without scrolling and click, come fix my roof. Get a free, you know what I mean? Like they don't want to scroll halfway down and be like, I wonder if this is the right company. It's like, I'm in an emergency. I want you to come do this right now.
So can you take an example of like a blog piece that would be, get really practical, right? For somebody listening, let's talk that you have a business that fixes roof, right? You're a roofing company. What's a good example of a blog post that would turn into a qualified lead?
So somebody goes to Google and types in, I have a leak in my roof. How do I fix it? And then they're going to land on a blog post. That blog post is going to have a how to on how to fix it yourself. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. You're like, how is that going to get me a lead? But that person's going to go through, they're going to read, okay, I need to spend, $500 on this product. I need to do this, all this kind of stuff. And then there's a disclaimer saying, this doesn't guarantee that your roof won't leak because you might not know what you're doing, right? Something like that. And even reading that piece of content, they might be like, you know what, this is too much work. I don't want to go up on my roof, right? That's like 20, 30 feet up. I don't want to fall off, like all this kind of stuff. And you could talk about like all the safety precautions that your team takes or all this kind of stuff. And that might dissuade people from doing it themselves. Now, there are people who are going to go up there. They're going to rip off the shingles. They're going to fix the leak. They're going to cut the plywood. They're going to do all that kind of stuff. Those aren't going to be your customers anyways. So why not help them out?
Amazing. Now, that's great. I love that. That's a new perspective for me. So I think people listening to this should definitely go back to the section and really put a test together on that. Matt, do you think, I know you love SEO and that's your key area of focus, but you probably also understand so much about paid ads. You think that's a good strategy for paid ads as well? To like get into more of a top of the funnel and run that blog as a paid traffic ad?
No, I think that's the opposite of what you should be doing. So when I'm running ads, it's all bottom of funnel. I want this
Mm,
person to convert. I want them to sign up for my thing. I want them to pay me money. I don't want them going to a blog post and being like, I don't know. Because the we have to talk about intent a little bit when we're talking about ads versus SEO versus organic social. So if somebody's going to Google and typing, I have a leak in my roof, they have a problem and they're looking for a solution, right? That's all SEO is, by the way. It's just you're solving problems that people have, or you're the solution to the problem that people have. And on with ads, like Google ads is like similar to SEO, but if you're running paid ads on Meta or TikTok or anything like that, people are not looking for something specific. So if you're saying, here's a blog post on how to fix a leak in my roof, they're like, well, I don't have a leak in my roof. I'm not going to read this. Or if they do, they might read that and be like, okay, great, cool. This isn't top of priority for me. If it's like a top priority, if they have a problem, they're going to Google and looking for a solution,
mm.
right? So it's what is the intent, right? Are they looking for something specific or are they discovering it in their feed?
True. Good point. Now, in terms of like high leverage pages, right? I'm sure that as you go writing a lot of content for your companies or for your clients, there are a lot of pages that are going to get much more conversions than others,
Yep.
right? Is there like a focus on the heavy lifting that types of content, or like what are the types of content that's going to be the 80/20 for a website?
So it's going to be different for every single business. And this is going to suck to hear, but you won't know what that is until you know what it is. So you need to start publishing content
Mm,
in order to figure out that these pages are driving the most amount of conversions or the most amount of traffic. And it's the same thing like with social. Like if I'm posting a video on Instagram, I don't know if it's going to get, 10,000 views, 100 views, or a million views,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like I have like an idea because I've been doing it for so long, but you just don't know.
And I feel like that after I ask that question, it's kind of like, is there a shortcut that I'm asking? But I think
Well,
there really isn't. But there are maybe some types of questions that would get more traffic than others.
yeah. So if it's a more commonly asked question, it might be more difficult to rank for, but you could get a lot more traffic for that. The thing that I always stress to my clients and anybody I'm talking to online, including you and anybody watching or listening, is that everybody is fighting for the front door. So if we look at if we take your website or take a keyword, for example, as a door, so each keyword is a door. everybody's fighting to get into that same door, right? But I'm like, let's make some other doors that nobody else is trying to get into. So the let's say the front door of the business, it's a nightclub. The front door of this nightclub is, the keyword plumber plumber in Detroit, right? So everybody's trying to go after plumber in Detroit, and everybody's getting stuck in the door, and only one or two people are getting let in, right? And I'm like, well, maybe there's some other keywords that we could rank for that are actually backdoor keywords, and nobody's going back there because it's a dark, dingy alley. But we're like, hey, we're gonna open shop, we're gonna open up some doors here, and all of a sudden you're not competing with everybody, but you're still getting let in.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I just saw the whole visual of
Yeah.
of you describing that. You know those? I mean, you've seen those memes where it's like free something with a door, and then everybody's
Yeah.
like lining up, and it's like hard work, and then there's like one person.
Yeah.
I love that. Now, I really want to stress this and go back to it a couple more times. Now, when somebody lands on your page, right? So if you're thinking about this question as a business owner, somebody lands on my roofing page. And you mentioned a few things like good blog posts, authentic, um, answering good questions, format of the page, pricing, right? So when you think about these elements and somebody lands on your page, what would you say are the main elements to get somebody to convert into a lead?
That really depends on the page that they're landing on.
Yeah.
If it's a conversion page, so I call that like a money page. So that's a product or service or a collection page. Um, you're going to need different things, right? So you're going to have your phone number at the top or your email address or a contact button or whatever, however people are taking conversion. So you're going to have that above the fold. On a blog post, on the other hand, you're not going to have that right away, right? People are looking for information. You can have a button or, a section lower in the blog post that says, if you're looking for help with X problem that you're having, we have this solution. And people can go through and click and, convert in that way.
When you're looking at a landing page, right, or a blog post, what are the main elements that a business owner should have on their page to get a qualified lead?
So if it's a money page, you should make sure that you're addressing whatever that keyword is. So if it's plumber in Detroit, the main word on that page, like the biggest text, which is usually your heading one tag, your heading one tag should say plumber in Detroit. So people know that that page is what they're looking for. Like that's the biggest thing. Like match the intent with what the person is looking for, and your conversions will be higher. And obviously, if make sure that you have a call to action above the fold.
And so if the business owner or the agencies followed a lot of what was covered in these three classes, at what point do they understand or do they know that SEO is working?
When you start getting people calling you out of nowhere or filling out your form on your website. Like the thing too is a lot of people are running Meta ads or Google ads or whatever else. Like you can track all of that stuff. And if you're seeing conversions not coming through any of those other platforms, or if you're only doing SEO, you know that they're coming through SEO.
Tracking does get a little bit hard, especially if you're running ads and you're not setting up UTMs,
Yeah.
right? And you're getting leads to call and you're not setting up tracking numbers. It can get really messy. If you're finding yourself in that situation, definitely try to understand a little bit more about tracking and tracking conversions and tracking phone numbers, because then you can understand how to allocate your budget, right? And where the conversions are coming from. A lot of times there's going to be difference in lead quality too. And so this is a defense to SEO, or this is like a positive to SEO. A lot of people that come from SEO, maybe a more qualified lead, I would say, because traffic can be really bad from paid, right? Because you're just slapping things in front of people where they may have not been actively looking for that. And so you definitely want to set up all of your tracking. Do you want to say something on that, Matt?
I was just gonna say, like, anytime I'm running ads, like it's usually I'm running warm traffic. Like I don't really run cold traffic all that often because I'm posting every day on social media, so I have people engaging with that. I have people visiting my website. I can retarget those people. And yeah, like just make sure that you're tracking all that stuff. And obviously there's software that does all of this for you. But if you don't know where things are coming from, you don't know what's working, and you might not care, right? You might just be like, we're going to keep doing all of this.